Hello, and welcome to another episode for you. My name's Mark Brereton, and I'm an instructor at Cisco. If you plan to use Cisco's Secure Firewall Threat Defense Firewall to protect your networks, maybe you've already got an existing firewall like the ASA or certain other types of firewall. Cisco provides a migration tool that can help you move your config from the existing firewall to threat defense. If you plan to manage your threat defense firewall in the cloud using Cisco Security Cloud Control, then the migration tool can enable you to do that as well. And that's the focus of this episode. But before we look at exactly what we're going to do in this demo, first of all, let's take a look at the demonstration environment. So in the environment which I'm going to demonstrate to you, which is actually going to be in two parts, that I already have an existing network where the ASA firewall is protecting the three different zones, the outside, the inside zone, and the DMZ. Now, with this ASA firewall, I've created some access lists that's allowing communication between the inside and the DMZ where the hosts Attila and Bleda can ping each other. I'll be demonstrating that shortly. Now, in the remote zone, the host remote will be able to, I've set up some access lists, so it will be possible from the outside to SSH to Attila and Bleda from remote. But in addition, I've enabled static NAT so that the real addresses of Attila, 192.168.133.50 and 192.168.10.90 have been natted, have been assigned static NAT addresses. You can see in the right-hand corner of the diagram what's happening there. Now, what I plan to do is to use the migration tool in the Security Cloud Control to migrate the configuration to the Firewall Management Center inside my Security Cloud Control tenant, and that's CDS FMC, the Cloud Delivered FMC. And once I've done that, I'm going to push that config to a firewall threat defense device, which I've already onboarded in that. Now, the migration part of this I'll be doing in part 2, but the just checking the configuration to see what things look like before and after and what some of the requirements are, I'll be doing later. Okay, so let's go and take a look at exactly how we're going to do this. So in this part 1, we're going to examine that current firewall setup, and then we're going to inspect what are the requirements for migration to succeed, and then we're going to initialize migration. If you enjoyed this part 1, in part 2, I'll be going through that migration process and pushing the config to the FMC and then deploying to the FTD device. Okay, let's get going. The migration tool, it's nothing new. It's been around quite a long time. And this link here on the Cisco website gives you much more details about it. You could just be using it for on-prem, not just the Security Cloud Control, which I'm going to be demonstrating. So you can see that there's a lot of links here where you can explore in detail. One word of caution here is that this is a high-level demonstration. If you are planning to do a real-life migration, I strongly recommend you read the documentation, plan very carefully in a non-production environment before attempting this. Okay, so that's the link. So first of all, let me go and take a look at some of the hosts in my environment. So first of all, here is a host Attila, and I just wanted you to see here that host Attila can ping Bleda. I'm going to stop that for the moment. And in return, Bleda can replay the complement and ping Attila. And you can see the addresses of those. It's 50 and 90, but this is a host remote, which is in the outside network. And you can see there that if I want to SSH, I'm not SSHing to the real address. I'm SSHing to the translated address. So I can do that for Attila. And let's try the same for Bleda. And you can see that that's working okay. Okay, now, although this demonstration isn't specifically about ASA, if you're going to migrate something, it's helpful to have a good understanding of what your current setup is so that you can check that everything is okay once you've migrated. So here is my ASA, and I'm just going to go through some commands here. So the first one, what this is showing is the interfaces, and you can see that that reflects the diagram. We've got 1920 interface G00 is the outside, interface G01 is the inside, and G02 is the DMZ, all configured and working okay. Now, if I go and take a look at the access lists, you can see these are the access lists which I've configured. That's showing all of them. And then if I take a look at the access groups, which is this command, show access group, then I can see the access group, so I can change that slightly through the running config access group and do things that way. Okay, so I've created these access lists and I've assigned them to the interfaces. Now, if I go and take a look at these other commands, so if take a look at more specifically at the access lists, first of all for the DMZ, so you can see here there's the hit counts. Let's do the one for the inside zone as well. And then let me do some more pings. So I'm going to do some more pinging and then repeat those commands. So what you should see now is every time I do that, you can see that the hit count is going up. And that's because the ping traffic is matching those rules. I'm going to stop there here. Go back to the ASA. So let's take a look at the one for the outside. Okay, and then we can see the access here, the hit count 3, but to trigger that access list, then I'm going to have to go to this one here. Let's, okay, so that should match that rule, and let's try that again. And you can see that the hit count has incremented for for one of those access lists, the one specific for Bleda. If I do the one for Attila, which is this one here, and that should have matched the other access list as well. So I just wanted to give an idea, that's matching. So you can see the hit count for that. But you notice that when I did the SSH, that I was SSHing to the MAC address. And the reason for that is I've configured NAT. So to examine some of these NAT commands, I can do things like this, show running config NAT. Okay, so I've enabled a static NAT for both Attila and Bleda. And if I take a look at the hit counts there, show NAT, and I've set up auto NAT for these, and then you can see the hit counts of 4, which we saw before. Let's trigger one more. Let's just do one more of these. So I've logged in to Attila. Actually, I'll leave that open. So let's try that again. Okay, so you can see the hit count has gone by there. And nearly come to the end of this part of the demonstration. You can see the translation table, and then also another thing which you could use is show logging. Okay, so the ASA is working as intended. Okay, but if I decided that I want to migrate that now with the cloud-based Security Cloud Control, there's 2 ways of migrating. One is if I onboard the ASA with the Cloud Control account. The other one is if I export the config. Well, in my demo environment, ASA is not onboarded, and that's not really the focus of my demo. So instead, I'm going to export the config. And I can do it with a command like this. I can use it with a copy command. I'm not sure if I'm going to copy the config, and then using secure copy and specify a host where I can export the config to, like so. And it says, what's the remote host, username, and so on. Now, I'm not going to do that. I've already done it. Then ask me for username and password, and then export the config. Okay. Now, that's the ASA. Now, if I take a quick look at the FTD, which is this one here, I'm just going to show you one command here initially, and that is that the ASA, it's unconfigured. So I've connected the interface to the same physical networks as the ASA, connect the FTD to the same networks as ASA, but that's not configured just far because I need to control very carefully how I do that, but it's in place for when I'm ready to do that. Okay, so the last part of the demo then is to take a look at my Security Cloud Control. Now, within Security Cloud Control, this is my Security Cloud Control tenant. I'm already logged in, and I've got this file within Security Cloud Control. I've got this firewall product. And if I select that, one of the things you can see in this administration menu is the Firewall Management Center. Okay, now Security Cloud Control does have this onboard manager, onboard FMC, called CDFMC for short, which you can activate, and it does require a license. My one is using the evaluation license. Once you've done that, you can onboard a device, and what I've already done is I've onboarded this device. You can see it there. So this device, it's actually on-premise, but I've onboarded it with a cloud-based manager. And if I select the device and then configure the interfaces, so if I click on the interfaces, just like from the command line that you saw a few moments ago, you can see those interfaces aren't configured. Okay, now if I go back to device management, let's go back to main menu, the high-level menu of Security Cloud Control, and then go back to security devices. Okay, there is, how do you onboard a device? Well, there is this process here. And if you take a look at one of my earlier episodes on the U, I've actually shown you how to onboard an on-premise FTD with cloud delivered FMC. So I'm not going to do that just again here, but there is another episode where that's covered. Okay, so the final thing I'm going to show you in this part one of this episode is the migration process. So again, in administration, we already saw FMC, but here you've got this firewall migration tool. And what I've already done is I've created a migration process. You'll notice when you do that, it gives a random name. And I could go and just select OK to that or change the name. And it takes a while to initialize. And actually, I think I'll cancel that there. I've already done that. Now, all that does is initialize the migration process. And when you're ready to migrate that config from ASA to FTD, then you can launch that. But that takes a little bit of time. And that's what I'm going to be covering in part two. So that really concludes this this demonstration. As a brief recap, we've seen that that Cisco provide a migration tool that allows you to migrate firewall config to firewall threat defense, not just for on-premise, but also cloud-based management. And basically to do that, you need to have your existing firewall config either exported or onboard if it's supported with the cloud control. And then you need to have your manager in place to receive that pushed config that you receive from the migration tool. And then think about the firewall you're going to push the config to once you've finished. Thank you for watching.